Hello aspirants, welcome to Daily UPSC Current Affairs series by Insights IAS. In today's session, we'll cover Samudra Manthan, the Pradhan Mantri Surya Sarovar Yojana, the Revamped Khelo India Scheme, the Favara UPI Cross-Border Payment Corridor, and Pellet guns in India. And in mapping, we'll explore Broad Peak. So, without any further delay, let's get started. Let's begin with a genuinely massive push for India's energy security, Samudra Manthan, also called the National Offshore Exploration Scheme. Here's the context. The Union Cabinet, chaired by the Prime Minister of India, approved Samudra Manthan, operating as a central sector scheme under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And here's a genuinely staggering figure to hold on to right away. It carries a financial outlay of Rs 84,084 crore for implementation through financial year 2030 to 31 to unlock India's vast offshore hydrocarbon potential. So what exactly is Samudra Manthan? It's a comprehensive national initiative designed to de-risk and accelerate domestic offshore oil and gas exploration. It provides public financial backing across the entire upstream exploration value chain, spanning seismic data collection, deep water exploratory drilling, frontier basin research, and common evacuation infrastructure. It's classified as a central sector scheme, meaning it's 100% centrally funded, running up to financial year 2030 to 31, with that total outlay of Rs 84,084 crore. Its aim is genuinely strategic to strengthen India's energy security, boost domestic oil and natural gas production, reduce heavy reliance on crude oil imports, and establish an indigenous, globally competitive ecosystem for offshore energy technologies. Now, let's go through the key features of this scheme, and this is genuinely dense with numbers, so let's slow down carefully. There's strategic allocation for high-risk deep-water drilling, earmarking Rs 43,200 crore to subsidize deep-water and ultra-deep-water exploratory drilling, covering up to 50% of the drilling cost or up to Rs 650 to 675 crore per well, to offset the genuinely high capital risks involved in this kind of exploration. There's also comprehensive data acquisition, allocating Rs 28,534 crore for large-scale acquisition, processing, and interpretation of high-quality seismic data, specifically targeting previously unexplored frontier basins and former no-go offshore zones. There are common production and evacuation hubs, earmarking Rs 10,000 crore to build shared offshore production and pipeline evacuation infrastructure, enabling faster commercialization of deep-water discoveries. There are manufacturing and services zones too, directing Rs 2,000 crore towards setting up dedicated oil and gas manufacturing and services zones to promote indigenous equipment production under Make in India. And there's digital governance and capacity building, integrating advanced digital program management, capacity building frameworks, and technology adoption protocols via the National Data Repository (NDR) to streamline stakeholder engagement and global outreach. On significance, this scheme aims to add over 600 million metric tons of oil equivalent of reserves, reducing crude oil imports and strengthening India's energy security. And it co-funds costly deep-water wells, lowering investment risks and attracting exploration in the KG, Kaveri, Mahanadi, and Andaman basins. So, to quickly recap for your exam, Samudra Manthan is an Rs 84,084 crore central sector scheme under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, running through financial year 2030 to 31. Remember, the biggest chunk, Rs 43,200 crore, goes toward deep-water drilling subsidies, covering up to 50% of costs. And the scheme targets adding over 600 million metric tons of oil equivalent of reserves across basins like KG, Kaveri, Mahanadi, and Andaman. Now, let's move to a genuinely exciting clean energy initiative, the Pradhan Mantri Surya Sarovar Yojana, PMSSY. Here's the context. The Union Cabinet approved this scheme with an outlay of Rs 5,070 crore to promote floating solar projects with battery storage across reservoirs and inland water bodies. So, what exactly is Pradhan Mantri Surya Sarovar Yojana? It's a national renewable energy central scheme designed to promote floating solar power generation, co-located with energy storage. Think about that idea for a second. Solar panels floating on water instead of taking up land. It optimizes water surfaces, reservoirs, dams, and industrial ponds to generate clean energy while preventing land use conflicts. It's led by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and implemented by the Solar Energy Corporation of India. Its aim is genuinely ambitious to expand India's floating solar capacity from its present roughly 700 megawatts to 5,700 megawatts by adding 5,000 megawatts of new capacity, coupled with 10,000 megawatt-hour of energy storage, mitigating land acquisition bottlenecks, reducing water evaporation losses, and enhancing power grid reliability. That's genuinely a near 8-fold expansion in floating solar capacity. Now let's go through the key features of this scheme. There's a substantial capacity target, targeting the development of 5,000 megawatts of floating solar photovoltaic (FSPV) projects across all states and union territories between financial year 2026 to 27 and financial year 2030 to 31. There's mandatory co-located energy storage, integrating energy storage systems, providing a minimum 2-hour storage duration, totaling 10,000 megawatt-hour capacity, to supply power during peak demand hours and reduce renewable energy curtailment. There's central financial assistance, providing rupees 1 crore per megawatt as post-commissioning central financial support to developers, helping bridge the roughly 25% higher capital cost of floating solar platforms compared to ground-mounted solar. There are also project de-risking grants, offering up to rupees 50 lakh per project for initial technical feasibility studies, including bathymetry and hydrography surveys, solar yield calculations, and aquatic ecological impact assessments. And there's an Atmanirbhar manufacturing push, boosting indigenous manufacturing across the entire value chain, including flotation platforms, anchoring or mooring systems, PV modules, and storage batteries. On significance, this scheme uses reservoirs for solar projects, reducing land conflicts, while lowering water evaporation through panel shading, a genuinely nice dual benefit. And it cuts nearly 10 million tons of carbon dioxide annually and creates 16,000 to 17,000 jobs, advancing India's net zero and Viksit Bharat goals. So, to quickly recap for your exam, Pradhan Mantri Surya Sarovar Yojana aims to expand floating solar capacity from about 700 megawatts to 5,700 megawatts, adding 5,000 megawatts with 10,000 megawatt-hour of storage, backed by rupees 5,070 crore. Remember the central financial assistance of rupees 1 crore per megawatt, the de-risking grants up to rupees 50 lakh per project, and that it's expected to cut nearly 10 million tons of carbon dioxide annually. Now let's move to something every sports enthusiast in India will genuinely welcome, the revamped Khelo India Scheme. The context is that the Union Cabinet, chaired by the Prime Minister of India, approved an expanded, revamped Khelo India Scheme, along with an enhanced assistance to National Sports Federations (ANSFs) scheme. So what exactly is Khelo India? It's the central flagship initiative of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. It's designed to revive India's sports culture at the grassroots level, identify athletic talent, construct modern sports infrastructure, and establish a structured pathway to national and international excellence. Let's briefly understand its origin. It was first introduced in 2016 to 17 and extensively restructured in 2017 to 18 by consolidating legacy schemes like the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Abhiyan, the Urban Sports Infrastructure Scheme, and the National Sports Talent Search System. Its revamped framework now runs from financial year 2026 to 27 to financial year 2030 to 31, with a genuinely massive combined financial outlay of rupees 36,441 crore, nearly an 8-fold increase compared to the previous cycle. Its aim, aligned with the Khelo Bharat Niti 2025 and NEP 2020, is to integrate sports with education, expand India's talent pool, build high-performance ecosystems, and support future Commonwealth and Olympic hosting ambitions. Now, let's go through the key features of this revamped scheme. There's massive athlete pool expansion, introducing the emerging Khelo India Athletes (EKIAs) category, alongside the existing Khelo India Athletes (KIAs), expanding the structured athlete development ecosystem nearly tenfold under professional coaching and scientific support. There's school-level sports integration too, launching two dedicated school initiatives, Khelo India Feeder Schools and Khelo India Utkrisht Vidyalay, to embed physical education into mainstream school curricula and enable early talent identification, genuinely catching young talent before it slips away. There's an integrated nationwide training ecosystem, establishing a seamless tier of training centers comprising National Centers of Excellence, Khelo India State Centers of Excellence, SAI training centers, and youth sports companies operated by the armed forces. There's also the National Coach Accreditation Board, NCAB, set up to standardize coaching qualifications, enforce high-performance professional benchmarks, and upscale sports science support personnel across India. And there's a unified digital sports platform and Fit India expansion, constructing a centralized digital platform integrating athlete databases, talent assessments, and funding trails, while expanding the Fit India movement into remote, border, and marginalized communities. On significance, this creates a seamless pathway from schools to Khelo India centers and tops the Target Olympic Podium scheme, ensuring talented athletes receive timely support at every stage. And it provides sustained funding for assistance to national sports federations to hire experts, improve training, and enhance international competitiveness. So, to quickly recap for your exam, the revamped Khelo India Scheme, running financial year 2026 to 27 to financial year 2030 to 31, has a combined outlay of Rs 36,441 crore, nearly 8 times the previous cycle. Remember, the new EKIS category alongside KIS, the school initiatives Khelo India Feeder Schools and Khelo India Utkrisht Vidyalay, and the newly formed National Coach Accreditation Board standardizing coaching quality. Now, let's move to a genuinely convenient fintech development for cross-border payments, the Favara UPI Cross-Border Payment Corridor. The context is that the Maldives Monetary Authority, MMA, launched this corridor, enabling real-time remittances from the Maldives to India. So, what exactly is this corridor? It's a real-time cross-border payment corridor integrating the Maldives Favara instant payment system with India's Unified Payments Interface, UPI, enabling seamless person-to-person (P2P) fund transfers. The nations involved are India and Maldives, and its aim is to facilitate secure, instant, and low-cost cross-border digital payments, strengthen bilateral financial connectivity, and deepen economic cooperation between the two countries. Now let's go through the key features of this corridor. It enables real-time P2P transfers, allowing individuals in the Maldives to send funds instantly from MVR to UPI-enabled INR bank accounts in India. It launched with initial banking partners, Bank of Maldives PLC and Maldives Islamic Bank PLC, through their mobile banking applications. It supports permitted remittance categories, specifically family maintenance and gift-related remittances, under the Maldives Foreign Remittance Framework. It also involves genuine institutional collaboration, implemented through cooperation among the Maldives Monetary Authority, the RBI, NPCI International Payments Limited, NIPL, and participating financial institutions. And there's future expansion planned, with upcoming phases set to introduce QR-based merchant payments and additional cross-border digital payment services. Now here's a genuinely useful list to hold on to for prelims. The UPI accepted countries, currently 9 in total: Cambodia, Singapore, United Arab Emirates, France, Mauritius, Nepal, Bhutan, Qatar, and Sri Lanka, enabling Indian travelers to make seamless payments abroad through UPI. That's exactly the kind of list-based question UPSC likes to test. On significance, this enhances digital financial integration, remittances, and people-to-people connectivity between the two countries. And it expands India's digital public infrastructure (DPI) footprint, reinforcing UPI as a leading global cross-border payment system. So, to quickly recap for your exam, the Favara UPI corridor links Maldives' Favara instant payment system with India's UPI, enabling real-time remittances between the two countries. Remember, it launched with Bank of Maldives PLC and Maldives Islamic Bank PLC, involves the Maldives Monetary Authority, RBI, and NIPL, and joins a list of 9 UPI accepted countries, including Nepal, Bhutan, Singapore, France, and Sri Lanka. Now, let's move to a genuinely important and sensitive polity and security topic, one tied directly to a recent court ruling: pellet guns in India. The context is that a Supreme Court bench, led by CJI Suryakant, declined a blanket ban on pellet guns, holding that they may be used in exceptional circumstances for crowd control. And this ruling followed allegations of pellet use against NEET UG paper leak protesters at Delhi's Jantar Mantar. So, what exactly are pellet guns? They're 12-bore, pump-action shotguns, classified as less lethal kinetic projectile weapons, intended for crowd control and dispersal. Instead of a single bullet, each cartridge releases an expanding cloud of hundreds of tiny spherical metal, rubber, or plastic pellets. On when they were introduced, they were inducted in 2010 by the Union government as a non-lethal alternative for crowd control following violent unrest in Jammu and Kashmir. Their first deployment was by the Jammu and Kashmir Police in Sopore in August 2010, and they were subsequently adopted by the Central Reserve Police Force, CRPF, and the Rapid Action Force. Now, let's go through the key features of these weapons. There's wide dispersion area. A single 12-bore cartridge fires approximately 500 pellets, which spread out across a wide radius upon exiting the barrel. They carry a graded non-lethal classification designed to incapacitate violent mobs from a distance without causing immediate fatalities, essentially bridging the gap between tear gas and live ammunition. There's also variable ammunition composition. They can fire lead or metallic, rubber, or plastic pellets depending on operational requirements and force escalation protocols. And here's a genuinely important caveat: despite being labeled less lethal, they carry high kinetic energy at close range, retaining severe penetrating power when fired at close quarters or above waist height. Now let's understand the standard operating procedures, SOPs, governing their deployment, because this is genuinely where the Supreme Court's ruling gets specific. So let's slow down. First, there's rarest of rare or exceptional use. Pellet guns must be deployed strictly as a last resort, only when all other non-lethal options, water cannons, lathi charge, PAVA chili shells, and tear smoke, fail to disperse a violent assembly. Second, there's graded escalation of force. Law enforcement must strictly follow a hierarchy of force, progressing through rubber or plastic pellets before even considering metallic options. Third, there's aiming below the waist. Personnel are mandated, as far as practicable, to aim exclusively at the lower limbs below the waist to prevent injuries to vital organs, the head or eyes. Fourth, there's proportionality and necessity. Force must remain strictly proportional to the threat posed, used only when necessary, and halted immediately once the crowd disperses or ceases violence. And fifth, there's mandatory post-event care. Operating procedures require immediate medical assistance and hospitalization to be provided to any injured individuals following deployment. Now, let's understand the key implications, and this is genuinely where the human rights concerns come in. There's a risk of permanent disability and ocular trauma. Due to wide pellet spray, victims often suffer life-altering injuries, most notably permanent blindness, ocular trauma, and internal organ damage when hit above the waist. Exactly why the aiming SOP matters so much. There's human rights and legal scrutiny. International bodies, like the UN, and civil rights groups highlight that metallic pellet guns violate international standards on less lethal weapons due to their indiscriminate nature. And there's collateral damage to bystanders. The uncontrollable scatter pattern makes it genuinely difficult to isolate violent agitators from peaceful protesters or innocent bystanders, raising serious concerns under Article 21, the right to life and personal liberty. So, to quickly recap for your exam, pellet guns are 12-bore, less lethal shotguns introduced in 2010 after unrest in Jammu and Kashmir, and the Supreme Court recently declined a blanket ban permitting exceptional use for crowd control. Remember the strict SOPs: aiming below the waist, using them only as a last resort after other measures fail, and the genuine human rights concerns raised under Article 21 due to risks of blindness and collateral harm to bystanders. Finally, let's turn to today's mapping topic: and this one's tied to a genuinely tragic mountaineering event, Broad Peak. The context is that a massive avalanche struck a 10-member international climbing expedition on the slopes of Broad Peak in the Karakoram range. So, what exactly is Broad Peak? Historically called Falchan Kangri in the local Balti language, it's the 12th highest mountain in the world, standing at an elevation of 8,051 meters or 26,414 feet above sea level. It's situated in the Karakoram mountain range on the border between Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan and Xinjiang, China. And here's an interesting proximity detail. It lies in the Gasherbrum Massif, approximately 8 kilometers or 5 miles southeast of K2, the second highest mountain in the world. Now, let's understand its history and climbing milestones. On the origin of its name, it was named in 1892 by British explorer Sir Martin Conway, who likened its broad, 1.5 kilometer long summit ridge to the Bright Horn in the Swiss Alps, exactly where the name Broad Peak comes from. On its first ascent in 1957, it was first summited between June 8th and 9th, 1957, by a 4-man Austrian expedition, Fritz Wintersteller, Markus Schmuck, Kurt Daimberger, and Hermann Buhl. And here's a genuinely remarkable detail. They did this without supplementary oxygen or high-altitude porters, a truly extraordinary mountaineering achievement for that era. Now coming to the key features of Broad Peak. There's an elongated 1.5 kilometers summit ridge, unlike sharp, pyramidal peaks like K2. Broad Peak features a broad, nearly flat crest, extending over 1.5 kilometers in length, making its exact summit genuinely difficult to discern from afar. There are also multiple 8,000-meter subsummits. The mountain actually features 5 distinct peaks, 3 of which exceed 8,000 meters, the main summit at 8,051 meters, the Rocky Summit at 8,028 meters, and Broad Peak Central at 8,011 meters. That's a genuinely useful trio of figures to remember. There's plutonic granite and tectonic uplift, formed by the active collision of the Indo-Australian and Eurasian tectonic plates. The mountain consists of massive plutonic granite blocks and metamorphic rock layers. There are also glacial feeder systems, flanked by massive ice rivers. Its snowpack directly feeds into the Godwin-Austen Glacier and the broader Baltoro Glacier network. And there's high avalanche and wind risk due to its exposed wide ridge structure. The upper slopes between Camp 2 and Camp 3 are genuinely prone to sudden slab avalanches and high-velocity wind funnels. Exactly the danger that struck the expedition in today's context. On significance, Broad Peak is one of the world's 14 8,000ers, making it a key milestone for mountaineers pursuing all 14 peaks. And located in the central Karakoram National Park, it's an important site for studying the Karakoram anomaly, where some glaciers remain relatively stable despite global warming. A genuinely fascinating exception to the broader trend of glacial retreat. So, to quickly recap for your exam, Broad Peak, the world's 12th highest mountain at 8,051 meters, sits in the Karakoram range near K2 and was first summited in 1957 by an Austrian expedition without supplementary oxygen. Remember, it's unusually broad, 1.5 kilometers summit ridge, its 3 sub-summits exceeding 8,000 meters, and its location within the Karakoram anomaly zone, where some glaciers defy global warming trends. And that brings us to the end of today's session. In today's session, we covered Samudra Manthan from GS Paper 3, Economy and Energy Security, the Pradhan Mantri Surya Sarovar Yojana from GS Paper 3, Economy and Environment, the Revamped Khelo India Scheme from GS Paper 2, Government Schemes, the Favara UPI Cross-Border Payment Corridor from GS Paper 3, Economy, Pellet guns in India from GS Paper 3, Internal Security, and Broad Peak under mapping. For the complete current affairs article and today's practice MCQs, visit insightsonindia.com using the link given in the description. Also, subscribe to the Insights IAS YouTube channel and join our official Telegram group for regular UPSC related updates and learning resources. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again in the next session.